You've probably heard that LinkedIn is the place to be, but how do you actually make it work for you? Today we're diving into the secrets of turning your LinkedIn profile into a lead generating machine and using LinkedIn's tools to create real, measurable results. And who better to guide us than the LinkedIn expert and sales trainer Neeraj Kapoor. Neeraj has helped countless businesses, including ours, and he's here to share his proven strategies with us. So many people aren't leveraging LinkedIn properly. Just how do you use it? How do you set it up properly to really get some actual results from it, rather than it just be a kind of like poster board with a few bits of information of you and a bad photo?
Well, that's what a lot of people's profiles are. So a lot of people, when they use LinkedIn, they want to generate business from it and they're not sure how. So what they do is they set up a half-hearted profile, which isn't fully optimized, or they just start selling in the DMs thinking, if I spam 50 people, one or two are bound to say yes. And that is a strategy so many, not just solopreneurs, but SMEs actually have. And it's completely the wrong strategy. And it fails pretty much every time as well. So I always say to people, if you really want to get leads going on LinkedIn, there are certain things you must do. Number one, optimize your profile. Two, write content that helps people. And three, know how to convert the leads you get to sales. That's the key part. Everybody wants leads, but they have no idea how to convert these leads. So you have to know how to convert the leads to sales.
You're making it sound really, really simple. Should we dive into my profile that's had the full Neeraj treatment and help people and guide them through the basics? Because
that'd be fantastic.
I kind of thought mine was okay, and I arrogantly, I think, thought that it didn't matter as much now because I'm two startups on. I'm a bit of an old git now, and do I really need to finesse everything in there? And also, after listening to one of your sessions, it was like, oh my. So I parked myself in a cafe. And as you know, I worked really, really hard on getting everything right. So let's have a look at mine so we can guide everybody through the basics. Because it's what we don't want to do in this session is, talk about all those apparently simple steps that you've just been through, and but how? You can just hear everybody well, yeah, but what do you mean? What do you mean? So here's my profile, which I think is up to Neeraj LinkedIn top standards here. Starting from the top, what's the first thing that you look for?
Okay, your success has been incredible, Darren. If somebody approaches your profile or reads about Crunch and they've never heard of you, the first thing they're going to see is your banner, your photograph, and your headline. That's why it's so important to get right. So if you look at your banner, it says unbeatable value, all-in-one accounting. Superb. That really helps me understand what you do. Now, beneath that, what does it say? Save time and stay compliant with expert support all in one place. This is me putting my sales hat on because there's a lot of crossover with sales and LinkedIn. Why do people buy? They buy to make money, of course. They buy to save money. They buy to save time. They buy to make processes easier. They buy to impress other people. They buy to beat competition. There's so many reasons why people buy. And you've got two very important things in here, which is saving time and making life easier for people. So that's why I really like the sub-headline, because you got two important sales factors in there. The only thing I would really add to that is the website. That's all. Just underneath that, have your website URL there.
Yeah.
Which is superb. And then photograph, professional, very good. And then headline, apologies to everybody watching us and looking at my massive head. I have to kind of lean in to actually read it at my age, Serial entrepreneur creating technologies to help people build the small business lives we've dreamed of. Multiple award winner, one successful exit, an expert at creating high cash generation business to sell fund. Okay, so that's strong because you've got the exit, which is key. Serial entrepreneur, key. I like it. It tells me exactly what you do. So this is really quite powerful.
The banner, I got marketing to do. It's the standard marketing one for Crunch.
Mhm.
I have asked them now to tune it up because I wanted to get the YouTube channel, which is really important
Yep.
to me, and and helping all these people out, like achieve the lives they want. So that's going to be tuned up. So that's pretty much a standard one, but it's good that you think that's okay. And I think for anybody who's out there, they could pick a banner, use Canva, and create something powerful. But it's got to have something about them and their mission and what they're about. So if they're a creator, it might be a camera setup, or they're a designer, maybe some illustrations. Trying to really conveying who they are. Isn't it? So that one's a bit that's more Crunch rather than just me. But I'm pleased that passed the test. I did a load of research yesterday, like traveling back from London, and a lot of people on the photo side, it was so important, and they had busy backgrounds,
Yeah.
and it wasn't clear. So the ones that stood out to me, and you're saying that one's okay because it's a professionally shot photo,
Mhm.
and he's got the appropriate blur, in the background. Like hopefully I'm achieving with the background of the shells here. Takes all a proper setup, but you can do that very easily with the iPhone, or an Android phone now, can't you? But you can very easily now, by holding the picture of yourself, remove it from the background. And that, for me, as I started looking across the profiles, people who had busier backgrounds didn't stand out as much. But the ones that had, cut it out, or had a colourful, they used a particular brighter tone, that seemed to stand out. So yeah, perfect. I'm glad I passed those tests. On that setup, now that is utterly down to you and all of your training, and it took me ages in the cafe to like really work out. It was before I didn't even know what it said. It was very there.
Yeah.
But yeah, serial entrepreneur, creating technologies to help people build a small business lives they've dreamed of. That's very, very me. That's why I've done Crunch. I've done Crunch to create an accounting platform. I've done that to take all the pain away so they can have the lives that they dreamed of and do what they want to do and what they're good at. So all those bits in there are good. So you just want me to get the domain name higher up.
That's all. Because people very often underestimate the importance on LinkedIn of simplicity. Because if you imagine the people you want to do business with, Darren, what are they
Yeah.
like? They have very busy lives. Every day I speak to business owners and SME, and sometimes at least once a week I'm in their offices. Most of the time it's on Zoom, but once a week I'm in the offices. I'm observing. I'm listening to demos. I sometimes have to sit in presentations. I listen to phone calls.
Okay.
I'm with them all day long when they're trying to speak to their potential clients. And those clients are super busy all day long and often stressed, and they're bombarded with information. What they want is simplicity. So if you can make your banner simple, not too busy, make your
Mhm.
headline clear and easy, it just means they're more likely to move on to the very next level. But if you have
Mhm.
something which is unclear, doesn't quite say what you do, they're not going to go, I think I'll just go on to Google and find out more. They just don't do that. They
No.
only do that if they're interested. So you have to really make life simple for people. Never underestimate the importance of that on LinkedIn.
So that's the top key eye-catching part. What on earth is the next most important part? It's probably not the part that everybody's thinking about. Like, well, it's just my history of my CV of what I'm doing. What's the next most
Yeah.
important
So the
part?
next part is called the About section. And people used to use that almost like a CV, let me tell you about my career. But people aren't
Yeah.
looking at that to look at your CV. They're looking at it to understand you and connect with you. That's why it's very important to tell people what you do, but also ideally tell people how you help them. And that is key. And there's two ways of doing that. You can start off asking questions. So in mine, I will say, are you struggling with getting ghosted? Are you struggling with imposter syndrome? Do you want to generate more sales? Are you not quite sure how to use LinkedIn? If so, it's okay. I've been there. And here's how I can help. So I'm asking really powerful questions to get you thinking. I'm telling you it's okay because we all have to start somewhere. And I never want anybody to ever feel bad or ashamed because they don't know how to do something. But I do want them to know I'm here to help. So again, that's exactly how I talk to people in real
Got
life.
it.
So you want
Got
your
it.
personality to somehow try to come across in that about section. Tell people a bit more about how you help them, ask powerful questions, or you give an example of people you've worked with and say, here's somebody who is struggling. Here is how I use my expertise to help that person achieve more and do better.
Got it. Got it. So yeah, I remember this. It was another cafe experience. This was exactly last year, and it was around Christmas time. So it's exactly as a year on, and sitting down and writing this on my phone over a couple of coffees, and then I think I moved to the pub and had a couple of pints. But it took a little bit of work to really get across the true essence of me, not just what I do. It's like why I exist. I'm driven by this, and as I've spoken about before, I'm driven by a deep commitment to make tangible difference in people's lives, and they're all the parts of it, and it felt very therapeutic, and almost I walked away from the experience feeling quite even more positive about me, like, oh, I've done all that, I've achieved this. And I'd forgotten so much. So it was a kind of a therapeutic process going through and getting a proper about section rather than the section I had before, which was, goodness only knows what I put in there, like really almost a cut and paste of my career history.
Yeah. And no one wants to see that. And what I like about your about section is, and this is very important, it's aesthetically pleasing. So whenever you write anything, whether it's the about section or you write content on LinkedIn, it's very important to make it easily readable and have lots of white space. Again, people are busy. You can't be having paragraphs with 9, 10, 11, 12 lines. That just makes life difficult for people. Short, punchy sentences, lots of white space makes it easier to read. And if it's easier to read, they're more likely to continue looking at your profile or want to get in touch with you.
Got it. Okay, and hopefully, the one bit I'd missed out on is that I got so consumed with conveying like me and what I'd done and proving those experiences, and I've detailed it out. I do worry it's a bit long. I'd missed out like me, what I do in my spare time. Yeah. So I've got family man. Two young boys to look after, just kind of a handful at 9 and 5, as you can imagine. I like my sailing, my rather bad sailing capabilities on the Hobie Cat, which is a little catamaran, very, very cost effective to buy and to run and to sit on the beach. So I've got that little bit in there. So I'm not just all business. So that was a great bit of advice from you the other day.
That's fine. I went to a law firm recently, and the partner of the law firm, again, what does he do in his free time? He goes out sailing. So, and so again, right. He never talks about it. So I got him to talk about it to his staff, and the staff all of a sudden just didn't see him as this demonic
in the same way.
They saw him as a really nice guy, and he was saying to me, "You know what, Niraj? On Fridays, I hate wearing business suits. I want to wear a hoodie." And I said to him, "Do me a favor, wear a hoodie." He goes, "No, I can't." I said,
"A partner of a law firm, I can't do that."
Law firm. And he now wears hoodies on Friday meetings, and it's wonderful. Everybody cheered when he did this because it just made him so much more human, made him so much more approachable. The staff wanted to do more to work with him. People just see him more as a human being. And that's so important in business. Again, if somebody doesn't know you and they can see you more like a human being, that just makes the sales process easier and quicker because it builds trust quicker as well.
Niraj, what could be the next most important thing on this on the LinkedIn profile?
We could easily spend the next hour talking about optimizing your profile, but really I want to go to the next and final important part.
Yeah. Okay.
It's the recommendations. So recommendations are key. People might look at the first part of your experience section. they don't really look at a featured section much. There's so many things we could cover here, but for the sake of time, I want to look at the recommendations.
Okay,
Now,
all right.
your last recommendation was 2015 or 2016, which, believe it or not, some people's are. Some people's last recommendations are 2020 or 2021.
Right,
Some
okay.
people don't even have recommendations. And that's making your life more difficult because social proof is so important in today's digital-driven world. And it tells other people what the experience was like working with you and how you deliver to them. And the fact that you have, from what I can see there, up-to-date profiles is good. It says January 2024, so it would be nice if we maybe
Just
ask
within the...
maybe October, November, December. It would be great. But you have 2024, which is brilliant. As we're in 2025, I would like to see something naturally, in 2025. Just make sure any good work you do, ask people. Americans are very good at this. And the British and the European were a bit more conservative because we don't want to bother people. But the fact is, if you do brilliant work with somebody, there's absolutely nothing wrong if you over-deliver to a client to ask that client, what was the experience like working with me? And just listen to what they say. And did I over-deliver to you? And listen to what they say. And the last thing you say is, recommendations really do matter to small businesses. Would it be okay if I just take what you've said and put it to you on LinkedIn as a recommendation to approve? That's it. I literally type up what they've said, which takes a few minutes. And in all fairness, most people will end up either tweaking or adding their own version to it anyway. They just want you to outline it to make life easier for them. But those recommendations do make a big, big difference, especially when you're pitching for new business.
Got it. Now, there's another fine example. My previous recommendation was 2013. And after having one training session with you, I then asked various people, non-exec, Renee is amazing, Jamie's our head of engineering, and I started going through. And it felt uncomfortable before. I didn't see the point of it. I don't need these recommendations, but it makes the profile so much fuller and so much more recent, like you're suggesting. But I will go back and carry on asking. And I equally need to do the same favor to other people. It shouldn't be cringeworthy. If you feel it's cringeworthy, it is a nice thing to do. And I found the stuff that came back was again a real positive from people that I'd never asked that question to, really, or felt, not that I didn't feel the need, but it was just really, really lovely to have someone say genuinely nice things, back to you. So I think, again, kind of a therapeutic exercise, but great to have it on paper. That's the fundamentals of the key profile. And everything else in between is obviously your experience section, and another bit that I personally really enjoy, and I now start making sure that I keep up to date is put some featured media or websites or any PR, and we haven't been out gunning for PR for a long time. We've just been heads down working through post-pandemic, looking after small businesses that are suffering out there. But I've started with the YouTube channel, putting some of my favorite pieces, especially that more recent one, What Makes Me Tick, me strolling across a beach, explaining what the reason for Crunch and what we're doing with the YouTube channel. So I felt that really brought it alive. And similarly, the experience section is in a very similar style to all of your recommendations about getting the key essences across of each, rather than a very portrait, which you see on so many profiles. Yeah, I was the COO and I did and it's a one-liner or a two-liner. It takes a bit of effort, doesn't it?
From doing that at all. And what we should, I'll mention one final thing. What you brought up is very good. I love the featured section, but nobody ever seems to talk about it. But I do like it. But if you scroll up a bit to where you can look at people's posts just there under activity. So if you go to activity, you can see people's posts in terms of the posts they do and in terms of the comments. So I like to look, if someone sends me a LinkedIn invite, or if I'm interested in doing business with somebody, not everybody posts, of course. Only 3% of people who use LinkedIn post, which is a very small number. However, more than that to comments. And I often look at the comments to see what a person is saying. Because if somebody's on comments and they're making rude comments or sarcastic comments or inappropriate,
Right.
that's
Yeah.
a big red flag. But if they're saying comments where they're either sharing insight, sharing wisdom, supporting others, showing kindness, that tells you a lot about a person and their personality.
Mm.
And I judge a lot because I get probably, I don't know, it varies anywhere from 15 to 20 invites a day. And I probably accept one of those, maybe two.
Wow.
And that's only because, first of all, most of them aren't personalized. So many of them are sales driven. Hi, I'd like to help you get 75 leads a month. Hi, I'd like to help you make 7 figures a year. Stuff that's so irrelevant to me, it just immediately gets blocked. But there are
Yeah.
some business owners who will message me now and again. And I'm like, okay, but who are you? And the first thing I do isn't to go to their website, is to go to their LinkedIn profile. That
Mhm.
person has no recommendations and they've never posted. Why on earth would I accept their LinkedIn request? Because I don't know them.
It's so interesting. I kind of accept almost everybody in. You're making me feel like I've done something really, really wrong, and it's about like growing that number of connections. But I realize I've now got a bunch of spam, in the following. I've got some really brilliant people, a really brilliant network, and a load of spammers. So okay, that's interesting. I didn't even think about that.
It's very natural. A lot of people, when they get invites, will accept as many as possible because it does help build your numbers up. But
Mm.
at this point in my career, especially in the last 2 years, I rarely do, because for me, I know from experience, it's not about the numbers. It's about the quality of relationships you have. And so
Yeah.
of the 36,000 followers, I only speak to about 0.5, in fact, probably 0.25% of people. That's it. It works out to be about 120 people a month at the most. That is my audience. These are the people who buy my books, my coaching programs, they support me at events. It's a very small number. Naturally, I'd like that to be higher, but that's just a number. So I tend to focus more on the sort of the audience who really buys from me, which is the 0.25%. But at the same time, I'm aware you have this group of people on LinkedIn, and they're called lurkers. And lurkers are people who will spend 6 months, sometimes even 12 months. In the case of your YouTube channel, they can spend 2 years watching you on YouTube, not say a word, and then suddenly one day reach out to you and go, Darren, you know what? I really like your YouTube videos. Can we have a chat? So, lurkers are very important, but because
Yeah.
they don't like or comment or do anything, you don't know who they are. That is why it's so important to show up every single week.
So we've got this bedrock, this foundation in this amazing like network, of tens of millions of people out there. How do we make the most of it? I think it starts with those posts, doesn't it, Niraj? Where do you start the post? Do you just like get the human stuff out, a bit of work? I mean, what advice would you give on that?
Well, there's 3 kinds of posts you can do.
Mm.
The easiest post is your everyday work experience, what it is you're going through. The second kinds of posts are the fears and concerns your clients have, without mentioning the clients' names. And I talk about those. That's why I talk so much about ghosting,
Yeah.
imposter syndrome, overcoming sales objections, struggling with LinkedIn, because so many people do. Whereas everyday business experience would be like, in July this year, I did a very popular post because July was a very quiet month of business. And I do not like quiet months of business, I'll tell you, because I have a life to live. I got to pay all my suppliers. Every month I got to be earning £5,000 minimum just to
Yeah.
pay my bills and live. So naturally, I'm always aiming for much higher. So, I have to achieve a certain amount. If I have a bad month, that's not good. And I wrote on LinkedIn, you know what? July wasn't a good month. It was really quiet. Now, I look at my competition who spend so much time bragging, showing off, exaggerating their success. Me, I'm being real. What happened? People not only loved the post, I had 2 incoming inquiries off the back of it from people saying, thank you so much for being real. It's been a tough month for me. And I met them both online. One couldn't afford my services, which happens. One person became a paid client. That's fantastic. So that's the
Wow.
importance of being human.
Yeah. No, I've got that.
Helping everybody else.
I didn't see that post. I've been heads down. I'm going to go back and look at that, and I would be wary, as I'm sure others would, watching this. Like, would I really reveal like the business? This month has been bad. but the result, what you're saying, the post did really really well. That's mad, isn't it? That's so authentic, and
It's
for
real.
all the I mean, and this comes to the new trend in YouTube, the seriously polished, highly edited, perfect lighting, everything is now waning. And people want the really authentic, like iPhone on tripod in the business, every problem they're going through, and these ones are just blowing up. So that's a really really interesting thing. The It's almost the balls to actually be so authentic. Look, it's really really it's a hard time in the moment. Got a brilliant team, and the previous month was okay. That we're looking. So being authentic is incredibly powerful.
It is. Earlier on this year, in April, I posted an image of me at Salesforce. Salesforce are a $50 billion software company. It took me 2 years to win business there, 2 years. And I wrote about that, got rejected, got rejected, got ignored, got rejected, got rejected. So this time I wrote a letter in the post. Then they accepted my invite.
The
Then they brought me
old-fashioned way.
old-fashioned way, and I had to get all the way, by the way, it's 3.5 hours to the Salesforce office. I had to drive to the train station, get a train, wait in Belfast for a second train, get a next train to Dublin. It was insane. 3.5 hours. I was shattered. So I had to stay in a hotel the night before and then get into the office early the next day with an Uber. And this whole trip cost me so much money, but it took me 2 years, and I won just one-to-one coaching with a member of staff. And he loved it. And he gave me a recommendation, which is on my profile. He recommended me to his boss, and she recommended me to somebody else. And they hired me, and they recommended me to somebody else. But it took me 2 years to win. Most people don't talk about that. They will show off and say, look at me, I'm making so much money. Look at me, people are dying to work with me. The reality is sometimes it takes a long time to win a deal. And again, it's the being authentic. It's very easy for me to write these posts because they're real. I don't have to dig deep into my soul. No, here's my everyday experience. It took 10 minutes to write. So please keep that in mind.
Yeah. Okay. Right. And I love this. So authentic posts, and I'm always, as I'm very open and utterly honest, and maybe too transparent. But some things I feel that shouldn't be displayed. Like, well, it has been a harder month. The economy is suffering. Like small businesses are getting hammered every which way. Are they buying accounting services? Well, less so. So I think that's brilliant advice. Being really truly authentic and showing the whole picture. Now, on that note, and this is about authenticating you and why I wanted you to come on this channel. Not only do you train our team and train me, but there's very few people in the world that are go to the LinkedIn office as a LinkedIn expert like you, and winning massive things. Salesforce is a nightmare to work with as a client, let alone actually trying to sell into them. So the authentication piece may be good for people to hear. And are they still using that title of LinkedIn Voice, or have they parked that for now?
They parked that for now. The beautiful thing is it's still in my profile. I can't take it off my profile. LinkedIn gave it to me. And I'm so honored to have had it since 2021. Because so many, LinkedIn is absolutely rammed. Google is absolutely rammed with LinkedIn coaches. And most of these people aren't coaches. They're people who they work in a social media business for 9 months. And all of a sudden they think, oh, I can make money doing LinkedIn coaching. And they become a coach. And I, believe it or not, I'm one of the few people that actually pays for my competitors' programs. I often go to events where my competitors are speaking. And I go there partly to learn, but I also partly go there to stay on top of my game and make sure, okay, this person is really good. I need to up my game.
Yeah.
And 9 times out of 10, the person's terrible. They'll say stuff like, be authentic on LinkedIn, next. But that's not good enough. You have to explain what authenticity is. They will say things like, here's a piece of software I use to automate emails, and you can get 200 connections in a day. But LinkedIn doesn't approve of stuff like that. There's so many
of course not.
Inappropriate and immoral and unethical ways of selling. Because unfortunately, okay, let me give you an example. If a fitness instructor, we're getting the new year started off, a fitness instructor says to you, you can lose weight and eat pizza and kebabs and fries and as much cake as you want. Or a second fitness instructor says, you know what, losing weight is going to be very difficult. It's going to take several months. You might even put some weight back on. It's going to be really hard work, and it's really going to be quite tough on you. What are most people going to do? Sadly, they're going to hire the fitness instructor that says you can eat kebabs, fish and chips, burgers.
It sounds amazing. Yes, sign me up.
The second trainer is the one that's going to help you. And there's a challenge having now on LinkedIn where I'm teaching authenticity, decency, integrity, doing business the right way. But then people will come on and say, I'll help you make 6 figures a year on LinkedIn. People go, okay, thank you. And they go and hire them instead. And I'm like,
oh, no.
These people rarely have results, because I will speak to people 2 or 3 years later who go, yeah, it didn't work. But the person gave me such a strongly worded legal contract, I couldn't get out of it. And that's the big challenge. A lot of people are shouting loudly on LinkedIn and making noise, but it's all style and it's zero substance. So please, when making a decision, don't hire the person who shouts the loudest. Hire the person who connects with you, connects with your values, and also has your best interests at heart, because those are important things to do when making a business decision.
Yeah, I think that's amazing advice, and I utterly recommend hiring you, Niraj. You've got to get a trainer in, because this thing isn't that easy. Hopefully, we've helped and given some really, really useful pointers, and we're going to go on to the lead generation next. But yeah, it's so interesting about who's out there, and there's still, to varying degrees, con people, and there's a story which I think you watched. An amazing young chap, well, he's younger than me anyway, and he is young, Ben Leonard, who created that gym fitness kit, and a $6 million turnover e-commerce business within 3 years. And he explains in the middle of that story that he almost bought into a guy who was a supposed guru out there that could transform his business, because he wasn't sure of his own talents at the beginning. But the guy wanted 50% of the business. And he very nearly did it. He had a quick chat with his dad and didn't sign on the dotted line. And it later came out that the guy actually was a bit of a con man. And he duped a number of people. So yeah, that's brilliant advice. Definitely look at getting a trainer in especially if you've got a team, because so many sales team, like the Crunch sales team, wasn't using LinkedIn at all. And not correctly. They had the wrong photos, they had really poor profiles, and not using it effectively. But of course, we wanted them to use it effectively, because it could be an amazing channel. So anyway, that leads me on perfectly within the time we've got with you, Niraj, and you're a busy man. So we've got this profile. We now understand authentic posts. The real nub of it, which is everybody's looking for, is like, but how do I get leads out of it? So what's your advice for this fundamental want out of it?
Okay, so there's a number of ways to generate leads. For me, over the last 4 years, the most consistent way to generate leads on LinkedIn is by doing video posts. And the reason video is so powerful is because video on LinkedIn is authority and it's trust. And I've been doing a video a week now for almost 4 years. That's over 200 videos. That is exhausting, by the way. Just to make it clear, it's not easy. Video takes effort. And anybody doing video, as you will know yourself, Darren, it takes, the first video you shoot will probably take anywhere from 6 to 10 attempts with a tremendous amount of profanity. And the second will probably take about 3 or 4 attempts with more profanity. And then eventually, after probably my 20th video, I was doing it maybe on 2 takes. And my 30th video, doing it in 1 take. And now I can do it without even a script. I can just go straight there.
Brilliant.
On LinkedIn. But it takes that effort. And you do have to put the effort in. But video for me, but more importantly, video for my clients, has been the most consistent form of lead generation on LinkedIn. So that's one way. The second thing, of course, is consistency and showing up over the long term. Now, leads over a long term doesn't appeal to many people, which is a shame, because long-term is more important than short-term. So many people want short-term fixes on LinkedIn. And I say, look, I'm sorry, I'm not the right person for you. And it's hard turning business away. I don't like doing it. But if people say to me, look, I'll hire you for half a day, teach me everything, I want to get business by next week, a lot of coaches will take that. And I will say, no, I'm not going to do that. You're not my customer. I'm sorry. I'm not going to get you business by next week. Some clients take a few weeks. Some clients take a few months. Everybody is different depending on the quality of your content and, of course, the sector you work in. So video is key. Doing this for the long term is another way to generate leads.
Yeah.
So those are the two things. And the third thing, of course, is contacting people you're interested in doing business with. That's more the colder outreach. So the first two are kind of mind. And the third one, which I do, about 20% of my income is me looking at business owners on LinkedIn who I want to work with, or business owners whose content I really admire, and reaching out to them in a non-salesy way. And I can't stress that enough. If I contact somebody and go, hi, I love your post. By the way, I'm a LinkedIn top voice. I've written 3 books. I'm a TEDx talker. We should speak. Here's my Calendly link. Most often will go, get lost. Who are you? No value whatsoever. However, if somebody posts on LinkedIn and I like and comment on their post, and then a few days later or a week later, I like and comment on their post again, I'm giving value. And then I send a personalized invite to that person to say, I've liked and commented on your post because it had loads of value, or because I wanted to find out more about you. Whatever the reason is, you're giving them a reason why, and you send a personalized invite. It's memorable. And then a week or so later when they post, you like and comment. Notice at no point yet have I started selling my product or my service. And this is so important.
Yeah.
There's a process you have to go through to sell.
Right. Yeah. No, I love it. I love it. Those steps, because I must admit I'd forgotten, or maybe I couldn't attend that part of your course, how to really make the outreach really work. And I you start worrying about beautifully crafted, like with neuro-linguistic programming type things in outreach emails, in mails, and really desperately trying to make that work. So it's not that at all. It's commenting and like spotting the people you'd love to like to talk to and hopefully sell to at some point, but no salesy, and a drip feed approach to like just making contact like you would in human nature. Wouldn't you? Like good morning to someone, like a week later, good morning, and then stop and have a chat with them, over something. It's a more human nature rather than the in cold, I want to sell to you, go away.
Yes, I was at a networking event last night. When I went to the networking event, I didn't approach a single person and say, hi, I'm Neeraj. What are your LinkedIn problems? Let me solve them for you. Or, hi, I'm Neeraj. Let me tell you about my career. No, you go there, and the first thing you do at a networking event is you don't say, what do you do? Because again, everybody says that, and you want to stand out. Just like on LinkedIn, you want to stand out. I'll say, what brought you here today? And I listen to what they have to say with real intent. And the second question I ask is, who are you interested in meeting? And if I know that person, I'll introduce them. I do this a lot at networking events. And if I don't know who the person is, I'll ask the organizer, do you know someone who's actually, this person is looking for an IT expert? Do you know somebody? And the organizer will really bend over backwards to try and find that person. Now, the reason I do this is people automatically see me as a person of value. And when I help them, they'll say thank you, in which case I feel fantastic. And in some cases, they'll go, thank you. How can we help you? And I say, well, I'm looking for businesses who want to generate more sales, or businesses who want to do better on LinkedIn. Do you know any? And sometimes people do, and sometimes people don't. But when they do, I'll say, oh, that's fantastic. Would you mind doing a LinkedIn introduction or an email introduction for me? And because I've already done a big favor for them, without asking for anything in return, it comes back to you. So never underestimate the importance of doing that. Same rules in real world apply to LinkedIn. Value first, like and comment on somebody's post, and do it at least a few times. Send a personalized invite. Do not sell straight away when the person accepts it. And it's only roughly in the 4th point of contact, I will then contact somebody. And what do you say here? And this is key. What a lot of people will do is they'll go, hi, I hope you're well, talk about themselves nonstop, offer a Calendly link. That's the worst thing you can do because everybody else is doing that. Okay.
Yeah.
So I will share some insight that will really help them. So the insight will be, how to look at your LinkedIn profile. And I noticed that the banner had a picture of London, which is fine if you're an aerial photographer or you work in real estate. I noticed you don't do that. You work in consulting. So I recommend having pictures of your clients or pictures of your colleagues, something just to give you more social.
Something connecting to you.
Exactly. And the second of all, I noticed in your, in your post, you're posting your press release, and you got no engagement. Press releases don't really work well on LinkedIn. No. So if your website, but not LinkedIn, I recommend taking the press release and just taking a few parts of it that are very useful and share that with people. People don't buy press releases, they buy benefits, not features. So what I'm doing is I'm giving them loads of advice. If this has been useful and you want to learn how to use LinkedIn more effectively, please get in touch. Now, if somebody I want to do business with sales, I'll say something like, you're a business owner, I know you've got a sales team of approximately 15, 20 people according to LinkedIn. Because LinkedIn gives a number of profiles you can tell on a company page. And I'll say something like, you know what, 90% of business, 90% isn't a follow-up. And I guarantee that many of your team are not following up properly, which means you're losing money, you're losing revenue, and you're losing profit. If you want to get that sorted out, I'll be happy to have a chat with you. Not I have 30 years of experience working in sales, not I've written 3 books, the first of which was a massive bestseller, Everybody Works in Sales. I'm not saying that. I'm not saying any of this. I'm stating a problem they're likely to have and saying, here's a solution. And if you're interested, let's talk. That's a very non-salesy and human way of doing business with somebody.
Got it. Now, so I've got all of that, and everybody's listening probably with super interest on all of the steps. You know, if you're you're doing a lot of outreach to people, I often found it quite useful to put the notes in the CRM system. I know I was in Salesforce, but when I first started sales, I can't remember what piece of software it was, but the little notes were really, really useful.
Yeah,
is there something in
software when I started? It was an A5 card. That's how old I am.
Okay. So that's the start. But I just wondered, Niraj, is there anything in LinkedIn that gives you reminders? Can you store little notes on where you're at with someone if you're doing lots of this outreach, or would you just work alongside your CRM system if, say, it was you had a sales team?
Well, if you have a sales team and you're scaling your business very quickly and you're very good at doing emails and outreach, LinkedIn Sales Navigator is superb. But the problem is, most people have no idea how to do outreach. Most people cannot write emails. Most people cannot write follow-up emails. Most people have no idea how to sell in the LinkedIn DMs. So LinkedIn Sales Navigator just doesn't work. But LinkedIn make an absolute fortune. You would not believe how many hundreds of millions LinkedIn earn. Hundreds of millions of people who use LinkedIn Sales Navigator, and then half the people give up after a month because they get nowhere, because all they do is spam. Shocking number of companies don't use LinkedIn, but they pay for the license for the year, don't use it. So LinkedIn make a fortune from that, but really get the basics right. Once you've got the basics right, you know how to follow up, you know the right language to use to connect with people, you start to get results. Then by all means, you use LinkedIn Sales Navigator if you're growing fast. But if you're a smaller business and you're growing more steadily, just have a good CRM. Having a good CRM is an important place to keep your notes updated. Mm-hmm. That is way more important.
I think that's enough for anybody to actually take in one go, don't you? There's a stack more detail in your training course, which goes on to the finer nuances of like super tuning the approach and getting the leads. But I'm going to go back to, and I encourage all of you to go back to Niraj Kapoor's LinkedIn profile. We'll have it up and watch. And I want to go back and see these videos that you're pushing out every single week, because I know videos, initially they are very hard work, but once you start doing them, you get into it, and the patter there, and not needing a script is just so good. So I'm gonna watch with great interest, as I'm sure every will be watching. The whole approach to the posts, the authenticity, all of the parts are just very clever. The commenting a couple of days later on other posts, the commenting, and the fourth time reaching out. It's almost like the advertising often works on the third touch, doesn't it? I've seen a TV advert. I've seen a newspaper advert. I've seen a PR piece actually in a main newspaper. Actually, I'm going to go and look at that website, and I might buy it. So, but yours is the fourth point. So very, very similar, isn't it?
It is very, very similar. And just remember, business is relationships. Even in a digital-driven world, it's about being human, and it's about how you come across. Nobody calls me saying, I must hire Everybody Works in Sales Limited. Nobody has ever done that. They're hiring me because I've talked about my charity work. Last month I was doing November. I talked about my charity work. It's a big part of who I am. I do
Yeah.
loads of charity work, and I talk about it on LinkedIn. I'm always doing fundraising because that's a big part of my personality, but it tells you a lot about who I am, the charities I support. When I'm talking about the struggle in business, it makes you real because other people often have struggles in business. And if you talk all the time about your success, day and night, that doesn't make you a very real person or an authentic
No.
person at all.
No, exactly. I think that's amazing advice. And I think all of us in this current economic time can be pretty real about that. And I've remembered all the real highs in Crunch and talking about all of the growth and we've taken over another floor. And it probably, in retrospect, looks a little bit boring, doesn't it? Especially to people who are struggling, and we're supporting the small businesses. So yeah, I love that authenticity. But every single one of your steps in this 45 minutes, I don't know how long we've had. Yeah, 45 minutes has been pure LinkedIn, nitrous oxide to actually making a sort of a rather flat profile and turning it into something that's a solid foundation, which would be useful all round. I mean, I naturally go to like you do. I go to the LinkedIn profile. If someone's reaching out to me, I look there first. Do I want to speak to that person? Unfortunately, I've been accepting everybody, but do I want to actually speak to that person? Do I actually want to have a meeting? That's the first place I go. And people don't seem to get that. But all the other tips to making posts work and getting meaningful leads, and the leads from the places you actually want is genius stuff. So I think we'll leave it there before we befuddle and confuse people on that. There's more than enough for everybody to do. If your LinkedIn profile needs work, start now. Park yourself in a cafe, park yourself in a pub. Don't have too many pints because otherwise you might end up with a bit of a weird profile. And Niraj, thank you so much for spending the time to go through and help the YouTube Crunch YouTube channel and everybody that's watching this make the most of LinkedIn.
No, it's a pleasure. Look, if this has been useful to you, put a comment on the channel. Let us know how you're getting on. If you've got a question on LinkedIn, don't just send me a generic invite. I'll probably ignore it. Actually send me a message and say, I heard you on Darren's channel. It was amazing. If you want more information, just go to nirajkapoor.com. There's loads of blogs there that will teach you how to do things. There's loads of content that will help you if you're stuck.
Yeah, perfect. And that's a really good point. I often forget about the comments. I'm saying it in every single video, and I'm so enthralled by all of the knowledge you're sharing today. Yeah, get it in the comments underneath this video. Anything more you want to know, or you can go to Niraj's profile or go to the site you just mentioned there. Get it in there. We do answer them, and we come back pretty fast. So again, Niraj, thank you so much for the time you've provided today and gone through so much detail. And it's so useful stuff as well. And if you want a course from Niraj, or you have a sales team that just aren't kind of making the most of this amazing channel, then you know where to go.